Happy Valentine's Day! Coming up, Judge Ann Begay officiates weddings working as a justice of the peace. Plus, Powwow emcee Deanna StandingCloud joins the show with some advice for Native singles. And across the miles, this couple celebrates culture through their art. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University is honored to be a supporter of Indian Country Today. ASU offers the only online undergraduate digital media literacy degree, teaching students how to recognize and combat inaccuracies on all platforms. They are using cutting-edge tools and tactics to separate fact from fiction in a digital world overloaded with misinformation. Learn more at cronkite.asu.edu.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Thank you for joining us. After months of negotiations, a group of Democratic and Republican senators are moving to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act. They held a press conference last week, even inviting movie stars to express their support. The landmark law was reauthorized last in 2013 to extend protections for victims of domestic and sexual violence. Since then, federal lawmakers have failed to come to agreements on some provisions of the bill. However, some experts in Indian country believe the 2022 version of VAWA could make it across the finish line.
Right out of the gate, though, and this is critical, is we have 10 Republican senators that also signed on as co-sponsors of the bill, which means they are supportive. They're going to be supportive of this bill moving forward. And critically, because of the close divide in the Senate that we are all aware of, the 50-50 split, those 10 Republican co-sponsors means that we can overcome a filibuster and that this bill has a significant chance of success in the United States Senate.
The 2022 version of VAWA includes a tribal title, which would aim to address specific needs of Indigenous communities. It would maintain the right of tribal nations to arrest non-Native perpetrators over crimes of dating and domestic violence, and it would restore the right of tribes to prosecute non-Native offenders over crimes involving child violence and sex trafficking. U.S. senators who worked on the tribal provision say it came from working with tribal leaders directly in Senate Indian Affairs Committee hearings. Protections of the gray wolf are being restored across much of the United States. U.S. District Judge Jeffrey White says the nation's Fish and Wildlife Service failed to show wolves could be sustained without protection under the Endangered Species Act. And the judge states the service also didn't fully consider threats to wolves outside the Midwest and part of the West. This ruling does not directly impact wolves in the northern Rocky Mountains of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, and portions of several nearby states. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland published an op-ed last week, writing in part, "Recent laws passed in some western states undermine state wildlife managers by promoting precipitous reductions in wolf populations, such as removing bag limits, baiting, snaring, night hunting, and pursuit by dogs, the same kind of practices that nearly wiped out wolves during the last century. Under government-sponsored poisoning and trapping campaigns, wolves were eradicated in most places by the 1930s. A new nursing degree is bringing colleges together in Colorado to teach an Indigenous-focused health curriculum. The partnership will bring the University of Colorado nursing studies and professors to Fort Lewis College to create a culturally competent 4-year program. These colleges are aiming to tackle a shortage of Indigenous nurses while bolstering rural healthcare in the Four Corners region. According to the American Association of Colleges of Nursing, only 341 Native students graduated from an accredited nursing program in 2020. Cheryl Nixon, the college's provost, says in part, "The need for healthcare on reservations is extreme, and there are very few Natives trained in nursing. We feel there's a real need in the Indigenous community we can help with." More than 40% of the student population at Fort Lewis College is Native American or Alaska Native, and the students represent 184 tribes and Alaska Native villages. The nursing program is expected to begin in the fall of 2023. With the Los Angeles Rams defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 in Super Bowl 56 on Sunday, Walker River Paiute citizen Austin Corbett is officially a Super Bowl champion. Corbett, a starting offensive guard for the Rams, has been a key piece for the team all year. He is the second Indigenous NFL player in the last 3 years to win a Super Bowl, joining Kansas City Chiefs long snapper James Winchester, who won Super Bowl 54 in 2020. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Coming up, we've got some advice for all the Native singles on Valentine's Day. And a couple connects over the miles to celebrate their culture through the arts. But first, stories of love with Judge Deborah Ann Begay. Stay with us. Deborah Ann Begay was elected as the Justice of the Peace for Moon Valley, which is a city close to Phoenix, in 2020. As part of her work, she officiates the weddings of couples from many different backgrounds, and she joins us now to share some stories of love. Hi, Judge Begaye. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Yate.
So let's just jump right in. What are some of the stories that stick out to you from the couples who you've wed?
Well, honestly, I've got a lot of stories. I spend a good 5 minutes when the couples come into my courtroom, getting to know them, asking them personal, intimate questions to build a rapport before I actually do the ceremony. And the oldest couple that really sticks out to me, they were 78, and they told me they dated for 28 years. They met in a bar. And they weren't drunk when they met, but they were sort of attracted to each other. They dated for 28 years, what they told me, and they came into the courtroom to officialize their wedding, their vows to each other. And they said it was just like it happened yesterday. So they were very much in love. That really stood out to me. They weren't really used to, the camera or anything like that. I asked them if I could take a photo, and they said yes. Post it on Facebook and show so we can show our family that we actually are married legally now and we're not living in sin anymore. So I was one of my favorite ones. I have transgender couples come into my courtroom. I have a lot of same-sex marriages come into my courtroom, and I love to hear the stories of, I had one couple come in that were gamers. One was in Hong Kong and one was here in Phoenix for 2 years. They didn't know each other, and they didn't even know like what sex each other was. But then they were gamers for 2 years, and then they started becoming friends. And then I realized they were attracted to each other because they had gaming in common. So the groom flew out from Hong Kong, relocated here, and they came into my courtroom and got married. And it was one of the greatest stories, just how love kind of creeps up on you, where you least expect it, And I always tell my couples that the best thing you can have to stay in love is friendship. The best thing you can build is friendship, because all the glitz and glamour is going to wear off. They're going to wake up next to you. The breath is going to smell. Their hair is not going to be done. Different things like that. And you're going to get to see them in places and ways that nobody else does. But if you have a strong friendship, you're always going to see them with eyes of love.
Have you ever wed couples who are Indigenous, and what was that like?
Oh, yes. Actually, I have bring this to work because I do the Navajo wedding vase. I've wed 4 so far that have sought me out personally, 2 that have come down from the Navajo reservation. And, they're one of my favorite weddings because Navajos have such a great sense of humor. And I wish I could show you one of the videos. They were playing this music, dropping rose petals and dancing, and everybody was into it. And then the groom sang off key the song, and everybody was laughing. And it's such a joyous occasion, and the seriousness of it, the gift of it. I always feel like the holy ones are present more so when I marry Indigenous couples than say non-Indigenous. So it's always a sacred time when I do that. So far I've wed 4 Navajo couples, and I've wed 2 Hopi couples, and 1 Salt River couple.
In preparing for this interview, I learned that only part of your work as Justice of the Peace is to wed couples. Can you sort of share for us on a personal level what it means to you to be able to officiate these kinds of ceremonies?
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because we do our weddings after hours, and then we could do them on the weekend sometimes. And so my job is 2 days of my job is devoted to evictions. I do orders of protection. I do civil matters, 10,000 or under. So though, as you can imagine right now with our economy and with the pandemic, evictions are heartbreaking. They're literally heartbreaking. So when I go into my weddings, that is the best part of my day. I mean, it is in a way what heals me, because I have to spend a lot of time in prayer on Tuesdays and Thursdays for evictions. It's very heart-wrenching. And then when I get to go to in the courtroom and marry people and just see hope and see, it's like a flower that's blossoming, at the end of the day. It's like you see the flowers wilting, throughout the court day. And then at the end of the day is the flowers coming back to life. And so it's what sustains me, actually.
And actually take us through how these wedding ceremonies go. I've never seen one in person, so if you could kind of share, how it plays out, I'd love to hear about that.
Absolutely. So we're lucky enough to have the Superior Court next to us, and so the couples will come in and get their license, and it's good for a year. So they'll get their license, and then they can come and choose from. We're lucky to have enough to have 4 justices at my building, and so we rotate the weddings. And then we distribute numbers unless you have an appointment with the judge. But when they come into the courtroom, we get them assembled. They come up and I do the vows. I have them say their vows to each other. They exchange rings, and then I sign their paperwork. They go out. The hall's usually full, so we usually clap for all the newlyweds. And it's usually a really exciting time for them. I try to make it as exciting and memorable as I can, because justice courts are known for being sterile, and you just go in there. And so a lot of people that come in for the weddings, can't afford the big gala weddings and stuff like that. So I try to give them a piece of that excitement that they would get if they had a big occasion.
I know that you were elected in 2020, but do you know offhand if there's been an increase in Justice of the Peace weddings because of the pandemic? How has that played into this?
Our courthouse is really busy with weddings. I was told that the one downtown on Jefferson is busier. So I don't know, because that's the main justice, but I feel like we have a good, amount of weddings that come in. And it's surprising, because I know on 2/22/22, that's going to be a heavy day. I know on February 2nd, 2022 was a big day. And I know that today is an important day for weddings. So it just depends on, the holidays. Kind of, I think people use weddings to kind of cheer themselves up, or because of the pandemic, it's caused a lot of fear for medical reasons. And so a lot of people have come in to secure that, their retirement or whatever happens for medical reasons, they've come in and gotten married.
Well, Judge Begaye, I've loved hearing all about these stories. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And I want to give a special shout out to my mom, Dorothy Young, for getting me all done today. Thank you, Mom.
Powwow emcee Deanna StandingCloud just finished hosting a virtual speed dating / friending event. She joins the show today with some advice for Native singles looking for a lifelong snag. Welcome to the show, Deanna.
Thank you for having me, Aaliyah.
So tell us how this event went yesterday.
We were so excited to launch it, and like you said, I was completely nervous. I get really nervous before any event, like this. The first session, so we offered 2 different sessions. The first session was at noon, and we we had planned this day because it was before Valentine's, but we totally forgot that it was Super Bowl Sunday. So we had the first session at noon, and that was a little awkward because of the tech issues. So we were using Zoom to actually meet in the beginning, and then there was a platform that we were using called Glimpse, which they have to kind of use. They have to go after the Zoom. So it was kind of like a lot of little moving parts. But for the second session, we had all that kind of ironed out. The first session was a little smaller. There was only, I think, one male in there. So we're all fighting over the one male. No, I'm just kidding. He was a ho-chunk guy, poor guy, who's probably just in his glory. But it was really good. The feedback, we asked for immediate feedback just to get, what went well, how fun was the event, and positive feedback. Even though it was a smaller group, positive. They had so much fun. It was really cool to just meet new Native people around Indian country. We had a blast.
How big of a turnout was the second group?
There was about 22 registered. Well, they were active on the site, and that one was a little smoother, and there was more than just one male. So there wasn't that much, all that stuff going on. But we had fun. I met a couple of. I just threw myself in the mix just to see how it goes, and I met a lady from South Dakota, and we were just chatting about earrings and her dissertation and stuff. So we were really pulling from that the friending speed event too. So I made a couple of friends, and it was cool.
So I guess in that kind of way, it was really successful. I know that the point of this was to meet new people. Would you say that there was any romantic interests that were sparked at this event?
I would hope so. I mean, not for myself, but like if you have time for any of that. But I do actually think there may have been. But if not, we are actually planning more events like this in the future. Maybe even game night or trivia or something like that using the same platform. So I think the more that we do this, the more participation we'll have, and the less fear people will have about registering and actually participating.
Where did this idea start for you?
The founder of Indigenous Lotus, who is Victoria Johnson, and I have been working together since I met her. She's the founder of a wellness organization for Native people. And we just ran into each other like after the big quarantine, and she said that idea. She said, if I have a speed dating event, do you want to host it? And I'm like, of course, for Native people, that sounds so fun. So we were just going back and forth, and her and I always kind of have like all these ideas. So just seeing her was really cool and then a few months went by, and then she said, hey, remember, we're still doing the speed dating thing. And I'm like, of course. So we sent out the flyer probably within the last 3 to 4 weeks. So it wasn't that far of a, advertising campaign, but we generated a lot of interest. And hopefully the next time we do this, that interest will have more participants and more folks to choose from.
For the folks watching this and, who are single and thinking, I'd love to try out a platform like this, what advice do you have to those people to maybe get outside of their comfort zone and try something new?
Yeah, I think people, that Indianish, it's kind of a vulnerability thing too. So I just suggest it's really low risk, where we have a lot of fun. You can meet new folks in Indian country. I kind of looked at it as more of a networking thing too. So if you're on, a path that calls you to Indian country or things like that, connecting with others, this is the perfect opportunity to do that, because it doesn't have to be romantic. It can be if you want to, but we're all adults and we like to have fun and connect with other Native people.
Yeah, and we were joking in our newsroom. We were saying that this is a great way to meet someone, to make sure that you're not related to them, because I know that's a big joke in many Native communities. Well, Deanna, thank you so much for being here.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys. Valentine's Day, happy Halloween, I was going to say, all confused. Happy Valentine's Day.
And we'll be right back. A filmmaker and jewelry designer join us today to celebrate their love story. Razelle Benally is Oglala and Diné. She's in her thesis year at New York University's Tisch School of Fine Arts. Tania Larsson uses land-based materials to create Northern Indigenous adornment. Born in France to a Gwich'in mother and Swedish father, Tania moved from Canada with her family to reconnect her culture and the Gwich'in land. Welcome to the ICT Newscast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I understand that both of you grew up miles away from each other. How did you first meet?
Well, we actually met at our last semester of undergrad in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We were both attending the Institute of American Indian Arts.
Tell us more about your love story.
For sure. We both were attending IIA. She was studying film. I was studying visual arts and studio arts. And we had to take a science class. So we took desert ecology on our last semester. And that's what the class we shared together. And that was back in 2017. Yes. And once we graduated, we kept our relationship going international.
Long distance, very long distance.
Yeah, and it's been more challenging during the pandemic, but it also got us closer.
Yes, definitely.
Since both of you work in the art-based industry, I'm really curious how, your artwork has brought you closer together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because I've been independently and grassroots making short videos and films, Tania's work in design and jewelry, the two fields are able to intersect because I'm able to do some work that can showcase her medium and her practice. And so I kind of am the documentarian of the amazing, awesome things that she does in her community and all around the world.
Yeah, and I get to share my practice with Razelle, and I'm always so lucky when she comes and joins me at different hike camps, whether it's in northern Canada or even Alaska, and she's got her hands dirty, not only filming but tanning the hides and always being such a huge support.
And Tania, I imagine that you get some really great photos and videos of you doing your work.
Absolutely. I'm extremely lucky. She has such a great eye and creates such beautiful artwork. So it's beautiful to be captured in that way.
I mean, it's pretty easy to do when you already make very beautiful work.
And I love that.
And what she does is so active. It's really, just me being an extension of the camera. And yeah, it's real fun. We have a lot of fun together.
While we have you here, I'd love to hear about some of the projects that you're both working on. Tania, let's start with you.
Oh, for sure. It's about creating jewelry. This year, I've focused on drawing and painting and creating designs because, having to be inside in the pandemic has been more challenging. And it's been really great to be with Razelle and get to also focus on her work and hear her process and stuff like that. So I'm excited to hear what she's doing.
You know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And Razelle, what about you? What are some of the projects that you're working on?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of writing. I'm in my thesis year at NYU, so I'm working a lot from home and I'm no longer in class. So I have a lot of time. I've been doing 2 jobs. I'm directing a 4-part series with another director. He's directing 2 episodes. I'm directing the other 2. That'll be streaming on Showtime in 2023. Unfortunately, I can't talk a lot about the documentary series. However, I can share that it's going to be something that a lot of people are gonna want to watch because it's such a hard-hitting issue in Native country and Indian country, and this is something that's been needing to have light shed on it for a while, and it's been a very arduous time to do this doc series, and so I'm just really making sure that I take care of myself in the process and take caring everybody that's involved. And other than that, I've been writing a little bit for TV. I was one of the writers in the room for the new Dark Wind series that's going to be showing on AMC. And I'm actually adapting a book right now and working on 2 of my own feature-length narratives, as well as finishing editing on my latest short film.
Well, we'll look forward to looking for these projects. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For more news, visit IndianCountryToday.com. I am Aaliyah Chavez.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.